Before the story begins, I would like to encourage you to like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy scary stories and creepypastas. I write a new story once a week and narrate it, so any support from you guys would be tremendously appreciated. Okay, guys, now on to the story. Cue the clock. Skin deep. Listen, it's all about layers, Jessica told me while applying makeup on her face, her trying to teach me on how to contour. It will never work. My face is like a big, giant, ugly square. No way will I ever look as beautiful as you, I told her, with defeat protruding from my voice. Beauty is only skin deep, she quickly responded back. I rolled my eyes at the idea of her using that tired cliche, something I've heard all my life. Not just from her, but from my parents as well. Jessica is my best friend, and honestly, probably one of the most beautiful girls I've ever seen in my life. I knew no amount of makeup would ever make me look a tenth of what she looked like, even without makeup. I was awkward. My face was not proportional, seemingly as if I were one giant Lego block instead of a person. We grew up as neighbors, living next to each other, and when we were little, we found ourselves in a world of similarities. Our interests aligned with one another, and we quickly became friends. As we entered high school, something became very evident. Jessica grew into her glorious form while I was, well, not so glorious. To make matters worse, I was pencil thin, with no shape at all. And no matter how much I ate, I just stayed thin. No visible curves in any areas of my body. So I wore baggy clothes. It was better than letting everyone see me as some anorexic girl. The baggy clothes gave the illusion of some girth. The boys in our school were absolutely infatuated with Jessica, constantly following her around like puppy dogs whimpering for attention. Most ignored my existence whenever they would talk to Jessica. Aren't you going to tell my friend hi as well? Jessica would tell the young boys. Their faces would then be consumed with either disgust when looking at me, or sometimes even worse, laughter. The common joke amongst my fellow classmates was that I were the before puberty phase and Jessica was the after. I hated high school, and deep down I started to resent my dear friend for being so attractive. Why couldn't I have an ounce of her beauty? Even her hair was blondish gold as if she were some goddess. The only boy that would ever acknowledge me was Jake. Well, at least he would talk to the both of us, and usually I would catch a smile from him whenever I would tell him hi. And sometimes he would have lunch with me alone whenever Jessica wouldn't come to school. So to say the least, I found myself enamored with Jake, and I felt as perhaps he might have felt the same. Prom was soon approaching, and my plan was to follow my best friend's advice and layer on endless amounts of makeup if needed be to wow Jake, to ask him out to prom. Jessica was elated with the idea of her giving me a makeover, and she wanted to know why the sudden change of heart. I usually would turn down her offers to make me up, and I told her about my feelings for Jake. Her face dropped with utter shock, and with what I could tell, disappointment. What's the problem? I asked Jessica. Nothing. Jake's a very nice guy, I'm not sure. She paused. What? I asked with sincerity. Nothing, she said, and then forced a smile on her angelic face. I felt as if something was off. I knew something had to be up with my talkative bestie, and I needed to know what. Okay, tell me, what? Does Jake have a girlfriend? I asked with concern as sadness protruded from my withered voice. Jessica remained quiet for several seconds, with her head tilted down, facing the ground. I could feel my anxiety begin to spike along with my blood pressure. I knew what she wanted to tell me. I just needed to hear from her perfect pouty lips. Me and Jake are going to prom. We've been dating, she said in what felt like slow motion. I could see the walls from behind her colliding in on me, my world crashing down and all hope of love lost into the abyss of loneliness. I started to cry. Jessica embraced me, trying to console me, and out of anger, I pushed her away, blaming her for my heartache. What the hell? She said, confused from me pushing her away. Jake was the only one that didn't see me as some disgusting monster, I said as tears continued cascading down my acne-riddled cheeks. I told you beauty is only skin deep, as long as you're beautiful on the inside, Jessica told me. I was tired of hearing that phrase. I didn't care if I was beautiful on the inside. I wanted to be absolutely stunning on the outside. I wanted men to follow me as they did her. I wanted Jake. As Jessica came closer, attempting to hug me again, something inside of me snapped. I couldn't tell you what it was. It was just a sensation, a natural one, an impulse to hit Jessica. And so I did. I picked up the nearest object with all the force my 95-pound body could create. I hit my best friend of 16 years over the head. Crack! She fell to the floor with a heavy thud, hitting the back of her head. Blood began to pool out onto the carpet. I couldn't believe what I'd just done. I didn't know what I was going to do. Luckily, no one was home, and no one heard us arguing. I crouched down, overlooking Jessica, and to my shock, her skin still radiated. She was still beautiful even in death. I just hovered over her lifeless body for what must have been an hour, just leering at her perfect skin, me wondering what it was like to be that gorgeous. That's when a voice in the back of my mind told me what I had to do. I had to know. I needed to know what it felt like. I went downstairs to retrieve a butcher knife from the kitchen. I then returned to my dear friend's corpse, and I proceeded to peel off her skin. I ripped her face off and put it on my own, me breathing heavy. I felt a sudden rush of euphoric pleasure, and then something happened. Something I couldn't explain. My friend's face started to merge with mine. It contorted itself into place, restructuring my own skull. I screamed out in agony, and I fell to the floor, pulling at my face, trying to peel off the layer of skin. And then I passed out. I woke up in a fog of daze, but quickly saw my friend's body still laying on the floor. My senses coming back to me. I felt sick to my stomach knowing what I had done. I got up from off the floor, and in the corner of my eye, I got a glimpse of my reflection in the mirror. I walked towards the mirror, completely bewildered by what I was seeing. No way, I whispered out loud. In the mirror, I didn't see my usual ugly face. Instead, I saw a beautiful woman. Jessica's skin merging with my own created an entirely new face. A perfect one at that. I jumped in joy, so gleeful at my own image. But then, I looked down at my body and still realized I was a stick. No curves to match this beautiful face. So I looked back down at Jessica's body, staring at her hourglass figure, and I smiled. I left my parents' house that day. I didn't even bother with removing Jessica's body. The cops were called, of course, and they thought that the killer who killed poor Jessica must have kidnapped me. The idea made me laugh. Like, who the hell would waste time on kidnapping someone who used to look like me? After discovering my ability to wear the skin of other beautiful women, I traveled around the country. I tried on different skins as if I were trying on different clothes. Some fit right, and others didn't. My face constantly morphing into a new one. But I was never ugly. And the ventures I found myself in were priceless. Men chased after me. Women were jealous of me. I was enthralled with all of the attention, and I wanted more. That's when I found the perfect skin. She was a model. I recognized her from the cover of a magazine. I knew I needed her face. I told myself that she was the quote-unquote Mona Lisa of all faces. I followed her into the parking garage, her walking back to her car completely unaware of me behind her. As she approached her vehicle, she finally heard me following and turned around quickly, her face filled with fear. "Oh, it's just you," the woman said. "Just me," I said while garnishing a sinister smile. "I just thought you might have been some creep following me," she said with relief while giggling to herself. I giggled with her. The next morning, waking up with her face was glorious. It felt right. In fact, it felt the way it did when I first put on Jessica's face. I paraded around my lavish condo, elated with my life, and came to the realization that it was time for me to get married. Why not settle down with some doctor, I thought. After all, I deserved it. It didn't take me long. I found the perfect man to marry. He was a doctor, and good looking. He could have been a model. In fact, I think he might have told me he did some modeling, but I couldn't remember. It didn't matter. I was going to have the perfect wedding. The day of my wedding came and I woke up in bed next to my fiancé. I couldn't wait to get the day started. I looked forward to all those eyes just staring at me, indulging in my beauty. And that's when I began to cough. Babe, you're not getting sick, are you? My fiancé asked. I coughed hard for several seconds into my hand. No, I'm good, I said while clearing my throat. I looked down at my hand, and to my dismay, it was full of blood. I tried not to let it bother me. This day was too important, and I proceeded to get ready. Later that morning, as we gathered for pictures, my cough returned. Blood continued coming out with each wet cough, and I made sure to keep a handkerchief with me. I didn't want blood spilling onto my dress. Other than the consistent blood coming out of me, the day was perfect. And as we got ready for our reception, I excused myself to the kitchen. I needed to go somewhere since my coughing intensified. I could see the cooks in the kitchen backing away from me. And as I continued hacking away, something squishy and meaty came out of my mouth and plopped down onto the floor. I stared down at it for several seconds, trying to figure out what the hell it was. Then, to my astonishment, it was my lung. A black, decayed lung, as if it had been decomposing for years. I was left with utter befuddlement, and I quickly kicked it under one of the stoves before someone saw it. I gained my composure and returned to the reception. As dinner commenced, toasts were given, and I, as the beautiful bride, felt compelled to say a few words. I wanted to bless everyone there with my presence, and as I stood up to talk, I began to cough once again. My husband rushed to my aid. I could feel it coming up as the lung did, and I began an awful gurgling sound. I reached my hand down my throat to pull out the organ obstructing my airway. I yanked and pulled. I pulled for what must have been several seconds, but still I remained choking. I could hear all the guests' gasps, horrified in what they were witnessing. My husband, the doctor, speechless. I was pulling my intestines out. I didn't realize how long they were. Finally, I got to the end, and I could see all my guests running out of the ballroom in disgust. And I called out to them to stop. I didn't want them to leave. It's just a magic trick. It's okay. Everything... And before I could finish my sentence, my tongue fell out onto the dining table. My dear friend Jessica's voice reverberating in my head. Beauty is only skin deep. It only matters if you're beautiful on the inside. And I realized my insides were rotting away all these years. And no matter how beautiful I made myself, I became uglier and uglier on the inside. I guess my beautiful best friend Jessica was right. Hi guys. As usual, thank you for listening to my story. I hope you enjoyed it. This is actually one of the stories I wrote during my Halloween challenge. I had a bunch of those already written, so I decided to go ahead and do that video. But let me know what you think of it. I kind of felt like a creep show kind of episode when I originally wrote that story, and it was kind of hard because it's female voices, and obviously I'm a guy, so it's kind of hard to do the female voice. But hopefully you enjoyed it, and please, if you like what you hear on this channel, consider subscribing, like the video. It really helps me out because it motivates me to keep going. Because one thing I love doing is writing scary stories, and it's pretty fun narrating them. So, alright guys, I will see you in the next video, and have a great week. Okay guys, bye.